It's official. The government's doing fascist shit. I want to go back to 2019. If you've been living under a rock for the past few months, you might be surprised to learn that in the midst of a global pandemic, we've staged the biggest civil rights movement in history. Amidst increased public outrage against police officers and systemic racism, decreases to police budgets in many cities, and a whole lot of lip service, Portland has continued protesting for over 50 days. This is awesome. These protests and activism, led by amazing black leaders across America, have created far more change than I expected. And apparently, the dickhead in the White House doesn't like that. A few days ago, federal agents started appearing in Portland and doing some, sketchy stuff. Heavily armed federal agents have been filmed pulling protesters into unmarked vans. They aren't wearing badges or any sort of identification number. They're just well-equipped militia wreaking havoc in the streets. On the bright side, this should be a pretty bipartisan issue, right?
Right?
Well, you'd think so. The true divide between conservatives and liberals comes down to the size of federal government. Liberals want a bigger federal government, with more spending, more involvement, and more regulations. Conservatives want a smaller federal government, with less spending, less taxes, and less regulations. Clearly, it's more complicated than this, but this is a nice cut and dry way to explain the difference. And the point is, if you identify as a conservative or a libertarian, you should be furious about what's happening in Portland. There are federal agents violating citizens' First Amendment rights. This is textbook government overreach. Unfortunately, it's looking like a lot of mainstream Republicans don't mind this at all. Fox News is talking about how great it is that Trump is controlling these violent anarchists. Luckily, the Department of Homeland Security has been kind enough to provide us with a list of infractions committed against the police by Portland protesters. These violent anarchists are committing atrocious acts of violence, like tearing down fences and graffitiing plywood. If those are considered violent by the Department of Homeland Security, what do they call kidnapping civilians and shooting people in the heads with rubber bullets? I know Republicans like to make fun of the left for being delicate snowflakes, but you just got so triggered about people painting naughty words on buildings that you decided to do war crimes. The federal government's actions in Portland are fascist. This is downright Nazi shit, and Fox News and other conservative pundits are licking those boots like there's no tomorrow. The hypocrisy is insane, and don't get me wrong, Democrats are constantly guilty of hypocrisy, but right now, they're not defending federal agents invading an American city, so we'll give them a pass. And to all my conservative friends, consider not voting for Trump this year. He is spitting in the face of everything you claim to believe in, and if you support federal troops attacking an American city, you're not actually in favor of small government. You're in favor of a government that enforces the current social hierarchy. What the hell, consider voting for Joe Biden in November. He wants to increase police budgets if you're into that sort of thing. And yes, he's old and senile, but at least he reads his intelligence reports. At least he can read at all. I understand that we all have different political opinions, but this is a bipartisan issue. We get to make a really fun choice right now, whether we want to be free or live under an oppressive police state. And I don't know about you, but this whole freedom thing sounds way better. Thank you for watching. As usual, my sources are in the description if you want to dig a little deeper. And if you want to follow the action in Portland, consider following Robert Evans at iWriteOK and Garrison Davis at Hungry Bowtie on Twitter. They're both excellent journalists who have been covering the Portland protests for weeks. You can follow me on Twitter at Focused Isaac, where I make fun of politicians, and on Instagram at Isaac Escovedo, where I barely post. Thanks for watching.